G'day and welcome to another massive edition of the RDFNL Footy Show. Thanks to ONTIME Delivery Solutions. My name's Yeendy. I'm joined by Tara Murray from the Star Weekly. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Certainly a big week in football. We had the split round of round 13 happening. Certainly a few results that made things very interesting in the context of the competition.
Look, I think there's one interesting result. The others sort of went as we sort of expected, with some of your top sides playing some of your bottom sides. But the match of Romsey-Macedon was the shock, with Romsey finally getting a scalp across against a top 5 side.
Yeah, quite fascinating. And that's the game we'll talk up first. Certainly big in the context of the competition. Romsey pulled out arguably one of the most surprising results. I shouldn't say surprising because they've got a quality side, but up against a Macedon side that have been really good in recent weeks.
Look, and I spoke with Corey O'Sullivan on the weekend, and he basically said for them, they need to play their best footy. When they play their best footy, they can match it with anyone. If they're not playing their best footy, then they struggle that little bit, or they're a little bit off those top sides. And obviously they played some really, really good footy against the Cats, who aren't at full strength. We know they are missing several key midfielders among a group of players missing, but you've got to hand it to the Redbacks. They were challenged in that third quarter. The Cats kicked a few goals in a row, but then after that it was all the Redbacks, and I think the Cats were held goalless in that last quarter. So it's not something we've seen the last few years from the Cats. So you've got to hand it to Romsey, who has started to build form. Obviously they played Broadford and Rockbank the 2 weeks before that. And speaking with Corey, he said they'd set themselves for this Macedon game. It was about making sure they did the right things against Broadford and Rockbank. I think they were a little bit disappointed with the second half at Broadford because they weren't necessarily doing what they were meant to be doing. But they put it all together to get that really good win, and it makes the finals a little bit interesting depending on how results come up this weekend. Romsey could be equal with a couple of those other sides in the top 5, and we've been talking about the top 5. It might be your top 6, and they're all pretty even.
Yeah, it almost seems like with that result there, it almost closes the door on the top 6 now, doesn't it?
Look, if Romsey get up this week against Diggers Rest in their catch-up game, which was meant to be played back in round 1, and then I think it opens a 3-game break on possibly Wood End Heskett. Definitely on Wood End Heskett and possibly Melson Centrals as well. So if you got that, that's a pretty hard to come back. Wood End Heskett would be still, I think, mathematically in with a chance, but at the same time it puts Romsey up there and gives them a really good shot of nearly having that 6th spot still sewn up.
Yeah, and there's those two face off in a couple of weeks' time as well, which certainly is interesting. So, speaking of Wood End Heskett, they did have a big percentage boosting win over Broadford. A Broadford side who I don't think played too badly on the day. I think they had 5 goals. It's one of the better efforts of 2018.
It is, and we look at it, probably the key thing for Wood End Heskett. It was something you mentioned last week. You wanted to see Tommy Gawthrop and Alistair Ray both convert in front of goal, and they kicked. I think they kicked 18 between them, and it was something you wanted to see. You wanted to see them both. They had kicked 18 between them, but they had 11 different goal kickers. So it was sort of Wood End needed to hit that return to form. They've struggled in recent weeks and dropped a couple of matches that they didn't want to drop in the run to try and make finals. So for them, it was getting back to some of that good football. Obviously, you mentioned that Broadford kicked 5 goals, so they did get a little bit. The Hawks got better as the game got on and the margin got out, and I think they had their best quarter in the final quarter. So Kangaroos possibly may have run out a little bit of legs there, but obviously for them, it's about trying to be competitive against some of these better sides.
And they are showing some good competitive nature. But I mean, you look at what happened. You mentioned earlier about Romsey. They didn't quite sort of execute the skills they wanted to a few weeks ago against Broadford, and that's probably due to Broadford's just ability to play well in patches.
Exactly, and that's it. They can play well in patches. You've got those young kids who at times will struggle to match the physicality with some of these bigger sides, so they'll be able to do it for bits and pieces, and it's good signs for the future. If these kids can be able to do that for longer and longer, that the side will help develop in the future. Yeah,
certainly a lot of exciting possibilities there. Diggers Rest took down Lansfield.
Look, this is not a surprise. You've got Lansfield didn't kick a goal after quarter time, so it was a pretty big win by the Boroughs. I think it was 147 points in the end. You had Cam McCabe kick 7 goals. He likes kicking goals against these lower sides. I think it's his 4th bag of 6, and 3 of them have come across against the bottom 3 sides. So he's had some really good games against them. I don't know whether it's because he's playing in a different position come against those sides and they're trying a few different things, but it's a good sign. It gives them a different option go forward. They've got a number of key forwards, and he's another one that they can throw in the mix there. So pretty much as expected with a big win for Diggers Rest. Obviously Lansfield probably a little bit disappointed coming off the back of 2 wins, then only to kick 1 goal 5. They'll probably be a little bit disappointed with that. Yeah,
something hopefully that they can bounce back on in the future. But for Diggers Rest, it is an opportunity to trial different things against some of these lower sides. But It'll be interesting to see what they do with Canberra Cape come finals, whether they do push him forward a little bit more or whether they keep him more in the midfield. He's one of those players that is versatile. He can play in the midfield, he can play down back. He can be seen kicking the ball in from one end at one stage of the game and then be kicking goals to the other. That's just the flexibility that they have to use him. Where do you think, you've seen him play a few times, where do you think he's best suited?
Well, generally, when I've seen him, he's played more in the midfield. He might rest forward a little bit, and they've got a few players who can play both midfield and forward. Matthew Metcalf's another one.
Yep.
He plays a lot in midfield, but he can be really dangerous forward. You can even throw Taylor Hind forward. He plays a bit of back, so does Cale Morton. So they've got a lot of flexibility. I think it might just depend on matchups and who they're playing, who plays where, because they do have those key forwards up forward as well. But you've got those other guys around them, and obviously with BJ Kilty out at the moment as well, he gives a different look down there and someone that can help out up forward.
Absolutely right. The other game we'll look at is Rupertswood taking down the Sunbury Kangaroos. It seemed like a pretty hard fought contest with just 11 goals kicked for the day.
It is. That's why you looked at it. You go, both teams were inaccurate as well, so they had made more of their opportunities, may have had a little bit more. But look, Sunbury was in the game for up until three-quarter time, but they did have 2 goalless quarters, so obviously Rupertswood didn't kick a lot of goals either, which sort of kept them in the game. Both sides, we know, aren't at full strength. Sunbury Kangaroos obviously haven't got that depth, and Rupertswood still is missing players. I think they've probably got nearly their top 5 out of the side at the moment, and I believe there may have been a couple more injuries. Dylan Pottlesak's one of them, and he's been really, really good for them this year, playing on sort of that half-forward flank, moving into the midfield, and has been really dynamic for them. So you look at that, but they've got different players stepping up. Rupertswood, you've got Jake Sasson, who in his second game, he kicked a cracker of a goal late against Diggers Rest to put the Sharks back up in front. He kicked 3 goals up forward, and you've got Austin Cicero, who came back through the reserves the week before, who was named best on his return. So they've got players to come back into the side, and they're looking at different options. It's one of those ones, you want to get these wins against time. May not always be pretty, but you've just got to make sure you get the wins.
We want to extend our thoughts out to Dylan Pottlesak as well, who I think it was a broken leg that he sustained during the week. That could be his season done and dusted. It's a shame, given he's a good young talented player coming through that has such enormous potential and such an integral part of that Rupertswood lineup. It seems like the Sharks, they keep winning games, but they keep taking hits to key players as well.
It is, and they'll be hoping to get some of these key players back. Obviously, Brent Swallow, Brett Chambers, Dean Parter, 3 key ones there. Without you throw in Dylan Pottlesak's another one, and he's probably been one of the young guns who is sort of starting to really develop in this competition. He represented the league in interleague as well, so we've seen that across that, and yeah, it is a loss for them up forward, but then it opens up a position for someone else. You might see someone like a Jake Sutton stay in the side because you need someone down in that forward line, and he's shown he's come up and kicked 3 goals, and they've played I think over 40 players, and they look to probably 10 players have made their debuts for the club this year. If not, they haven't yet. They probably will by season's end. So there's a lot of depth there, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of lineup the Sharks have come finals time. Should
be very fascinating, something to definitely watch. And before we wrap things up, I want to extend a big congratulations to Eddie Tunn and Kath Burke for getting life memberships over at Woodend Heskett over the weekend. Truly well deserved. Great volunteers. I know Kath Burke has actually won an award through the RDFNL for her great work in terms of being a quality volunteer. So just we want to see more volunteers get recognised, not only just at club level but at league level as well. And without volunteers, Tara, we wouldn't be able to function as well as we can as a competition. No, exactly. The volunteers are the heart and soul of football clubs, and whether it's you train it. Look, some do get paid these days, but you've got your trainers, even the people in the canteen. You've got raffle stickers, everyone sort of thing. If you don't have those people step up, like your committee members as well, you don't have those guys step up, and then you're not going to have clubs. Yeah, absolutely. Spot on. Well, thanks to our friends at OnTime Delivery Solutions. Thanks to you, Tara, for jumping on board.
Thanks for having me.
We'll catch everyone later on the week.